And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast right here on SI. I'm your host, Grant Sasher, bringing you all the latest news in regards to UNC athletics, uh, football, basketball, baseball. We'll touch on some other sports as well. But right now, I think everyone wants to talk about, football and basketball to some extent, right? Me and Jeremiah actually talked about all the latest updates for basketball. We talked about Luka Bogavacs, um, situation where he's gotten cleared by the U.S. government. Of course, he already got admitted to UNC last month or 2 months ago in June. I keep thinking it's August now. But then also he's got to get clearance from the NCAA. We talked a little about that. We talked a little bit about what Ivan Matlakovic can bring to the men's team. We thought he was more of a depth piece than anything, and but I still think he'd be a very important player on this team because of the size he brings, whether that's on the court in an actual game or that's during practice. And then we also discussed UNC women's hoops team. They were able to sign the number one player in the country in their class. Um, so that was huge news for Courtney, for Coach Courtney and the crew. Kate Harprin, number one player in the country, point guard. That's a huge win for UNC women's team moving forward. As you get closer and closer to the season, they will be a top 25 team. They're coming off a Sweet 16 appearance last season, and I really think they can get past the Sweet 16 this year. And really, I think UNC should support women's basketball more because if you sign the number one player in the country, that the only reason why the number one player in the country would commit to you is if you're trying to build something. And I think that's what Courtney's doing. So I think they need to support her. I'm going to probably write an article about that, actually. Now I come to think about it. But back to football. Back to football. And I wanted to bring this up because I did an article about Colin Cowherd and his comments towards Bill Belichick. And I don't think he did anything bad, right? I think Colin Cowherd said it was more of a agree to disagree more than anything else because I thought he did say some things that I agreed. I thought he said some things I agreed with, but he also said some things that I disagreed with. I don't think he is a bad person. I don't think he is a bad reporter. But there were some things that I didn't really agree with. And I think one of the things I agree with, of course, he mentioned that, he mentioned about, the schedule's easy. There's no way else to put it. I mean, there's no way you can sugarcoat it, but UNC schedule's easy. And because the ACC really isn't that strong of a conference, you got a very easy schedule. He actually mentioned that the schedule looked like a list of all the top colleges on U.S. News World and Report, which is very true. I mean, UNC is playing Duke, Virginia, Stanford, Cal. I mean, it is literally a U.S. News Report, U.S. News and World Report top, 150 colleges in the country. I mean, that's what it looked like. But there are also some things where I thought he kind of missed the mark on the quarterback position because he said they don't have a quarterback. I think they do. Gio Lopez, I think, can be that guy. I think he's somebody who can run the offense to the best of his abilities. He doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's also an excellent dual threat quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to be the best quarterback in the country, or even the best quarterback in the ACC, but I think he'll be enough. I think he'll do a lot of good things for the Tar Heels and help them win a lot of games. Maybe not 10 or 11. I'm talking about 8, 9 games. I think he will be a key piece for Belichick going into his first season. But I think then, I mean, you can go look back at it. I actually wrote the article, and I think he, there's a lot of things I didn't agree with. I don't, I think, and part of the problem with Colin Cowherd is that he's a national guy, right? He's not a local. I'm going to show up to every single media availability at the Keenan Center. Like he's not that type of guy, right? He's a national sports guy. He's got to cover the NFL. He's got to cover the NBA. He's got to cover the MLB to some extent. He's got to cover college football. He's got to cover college basketball. There's a lot he has to cover, and he's got too many things he's got to cover. So he's not going to cover UNC every day like I am, or Jeremiah Artacho is, or Andrew Jones is. I mean, Jeremiah Holloway. There's a lot of guys who cover the Tar Heels each and every day to the best of our abilities, because that's what our job is. Our job is to cover North Carolina. That's our job. But Colin's job is to cover the national sports scene, and UNC just happens to be in the national sports scene because their head coach is Bill Belichick. And the interesting thing about Bill Belichick, and I think a lot of people misrepresent him, and not in a bad way, right? But the way Bill Belichick has been, he's often been viewed as a curmudgeon, which, I mean, to be fair, a lot of coaches are curmudgeons, right? But, when I took the job, and I knew, covering Bill Belichick was something that, I'd never seen I would never get a chance to cover in my lifetime. I never thought that. Now I am. But I also thought that, damn, this guy, I don't think he's a very nice guy. Maybe I should be very careful with my questions. But then, I've sat in the front row of the press conference. And each and every one of Bill Belichick's press conferences, fall camp started, I've always sat in the front. And looking at him, looking at his body language, just listen to everything he's saying, he's actually a lot more laid back than I thought he was. And because we see the press conference he had in New England where he didn't want to answer any questions. He was a no-nonsense guy. He didn't want to answer any questions about distractions. There's a lot of things. I mean, for example, the best example of that was when he was with the Patriots, we're on to Cincinnati. Hey, Coach, what do you think? We're on to Cincinnati. Hey, Bill, what do you think? We're on to Cincinnati. Just look up Bill Belichick on to Cincinnati. You'll see it, right? There's a lot of great examples of that. But since he's been in Chapel Hill, I haven't seen that. Maybe it's because he's in Chapel Hill. Maybe that mellowed him out, being in a really chill college town like Chapel Hill. Maybe it's just a different environment of coaching that he's in. Maybe he's out of the cold weather in Boston, and maybe he's just a nicer guy. And I can't really explain it, but, he's just a pretty laid-back guy. And not only is he a laid-back guy, he's going to tell it like it is, right? So if he's giving you a full answer, you better listen, because that's actually how he feels. He's a very genuine guy, and that's something that as somebody, like, I'm a young guy, right? I'm still young. I know I don't really have hair, but I'm 26, right? I'm still a fairly young guy, right? Like when Bill Belichick took the New England job, I was 2. All right. So I always thought Bill Belichick was just not, he was a curmudgeon. He didn't want to answer questions. Also as a young reporter, you feel like, oh, maybe I don't want to ask this question because it might be viewed as a stupid question. But every time I've asked him a question, he's answered it in full detail. And yes, he does sound like a history professor at times, but he gives a lot of interesting stuff. And when he answers your question in full detail and length, then take that to heart, because that's how he genuinely feels. I mean, the man literally admitted on the podium that he released players throughout the spring, right? Like it was an NFL front office. So he's a very genuine guy. And you know what it reminds me too? and this is something that's very similar that happened to me throughout my career, is when I was first starting out in college. LSU just had hired Brian Kelly. And Brian Kelly, to my knowledge, up to that point before he got in Baton Rouge, was a guy who would yell on the sidelines. He would yell so much he would turn red. He killed a kid on the tower or whatever. But there's more of course, there's more context to that. But I'm just saying what people have been saying, not what I've been saying, what I've heard other people say. And when he got to LSU, I'm like, oh, he's a curmudgeon. He's a masshole, which is what they call people who aren't very nice people in Massachusetts. He's not gonna be a very nice guy, but when I was covering the team, he was not only like he was laid back. I know I'm just described two coaches laid back, but that's what he was. He was laid back. He told a lot of dry humor, which I love dry humor, by the way. I'm a huge dry humor guy. And, he used to mess with the media. He used to joke with the media. He used to, there's one time, for example, when we were in the press conference, I think it was the first week of the year. It was 2023. And, he's talking. And where Brian Kelly had his weekly press conferences, we're in the lawn room, which is a room, which is a room where the team meets for certain meetings at times when they're practicing the same and whatnot. And we're in there, and I guess one of the chairs is broken, and somebody just happened to be sitting that one day, and then one person was sitting there, and the next he falls right through the chair, and he stops doing. It's like, see, it's like this is what happens when we have broken seats. You knew it was broken, and you still sat in anyway. We got to pay a bunch of money because you broke a chair, and blah blah blah. It was really funny. Brian Kelly actually was an endearing guy. Yes, if you're gonna hear anything negative about Brian Kelly in Baton Rouge, it's because he's not winning, right? And you're starting to kind of hear that already. They're starting to hear this skepticism already because it's a season of high expectations. But a lot of the media members actually like Brian Kelly. He's a jokester. And that's what I've seen from Bill. And it's very similar. I know Brian Kelly, I keep bringing up LSU because I think there's some people on here that are tired of hearing it, but that's the best way I can kind of compare them. That makes it easier for people to understand sometimes because of my own past experiences. And that's what, Brian Kelly and Bill Belichick are very similar in the sense that, yes, when you hear the national media speak about them, you're going to believe it. But once you meet them and you cover them and you talk with them, you ask him questions, he answers your questions and blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, that's not the guy that Colin Cowherd was talking about. That's not the guy that Stephen A. Smith was talking about the other day. That's not the guy that Chris Mad Dog Russo was talking about on First Take. I know I keep bringing up First Take, guys, but that's my point. The national media. Paul Feinbaum, right? Same thing. Even though Paul Feinbaum is more of a SEC guy, he's more of a great example because he's always talking about what other college programs are doing, and he has no idea what is going on at that program. You get what I'm saying? So when you hear people talk about Bill Belichick, yes, there's some things that you're kind of concerned about with Bill Belichick. Of course. And look, I'm not saying there's any reason why you shouldn't feel concerned, right? This is first year coaching college football ever. As not only as a head coach, but just as an assistant. He's never coached a lick of college ball. All of his coaching has been at the professional level, right? You're worried about how he's going to handle the kids. How he's going to develop and teach the kids, because it's different from coaching, grown men. There's a lot of difference between professional and college ball. So those are some of the things that people are concerned with. And that's justifiable. I don't blame them. Right. And I agree with them to some extent, but Bill Belichick, the person where he's the curmudgeon, doesn't want to answer your questions, is mean to reporters, blah, blah. I had not gotten that vibe one bit. And yes, I've only seen 2 press conferences. But he doesn't come off to me as a guy as a curmudgeon. And I think maybe it's because of the change of environment. Maybe he doesn't have to report to Robert Kraft every day. Maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe he's just in a warmer climate. Maybe it's just he just enjoys coaching college kids. And one of the things Colin Cowherd also mentions, like, oh, he's a 70-year-old curmudgeon who doesn't want to coach college kids. I don't think that. I think he enjoys coaching his kids, actually, which is a pretty surprising. I think that was one of my main concerns about him coaching college kids, but he seems like he's enjoying it. It would be interesting to see down the line when it comes to NIL. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wants to hop back to the NFL. And really, if they have a good year, maybe they go 9-3, 10-2. There's a chance he might leave for the NFL. And maybe does Steve take over? I mean, there's whole lot of variables that go with it. Bill Belichick, but really, just since I've covered this team, most of my misconceptions about Bill Belichick have gone away. And I'm telling the God's honest truth. My opinion of Bill Belichick has changed in terms of not the coach, because we all know what he's done, but Bill Belichick, the person who's on the field, when he's in the press conference, when he's doing this and that, is completely changed, right? So, that's it. Anyway, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, there's a lot of – even if you're not a North Carolina fan, let's just say maybe you like the Jaguars, maybe you like the Arizona Wildcats, maybe you want to see some other teams. There's a lot of videos on here, so make sure to check them out as well. But if you're a North Carolina fan, make sure to go follow us on Twitter, Tar Heels on SI. Make sure to go like us on Facebook and follow us on Facebook as well. And also, you can follow me on Twitter. Name tag's right there. Bang. Last name, first name. You can follow me there. And also, make sure to check out the website as well. All of our content is free. No paywalls. No subscriptions. No bull. It is all free. Make sure to go check it out. But anyway, I'm your host, Grant Sastre, bringing you all the latest news for UNC football, basketball, baseball, you name it. Bill Belichick watch. You'll find it all right here. Thanks for watching. You guys have a good day.